Sacha,
Bonsoir,
ça va bien?
ça va bien.
Très bien. Shar, did you just have a break from French last week, or did you have other classes on break too?
I had a break.
Oh, like a whole, like no classes. They all aligned at the same time? Oh, that's nice. Very good. Bonsoir, Arya.
Bonsoir.
Your hair looks different.
I did. I got a haircut and I got rid of the red. I redyed it.
Ah, it looks nice. I like it.
Thank you.
Très joli. Bonsoir, Carolina.
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir, Winter.
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir, Rabi.
Bonsoir.
All right, good to see you all. I missed you all last week, but I hope you either had a little break from school or at least you had a break from French, but we're going to pick up where we left off. So today we are going to talk about our next food, which is pronounced la bouillabaisse. La bouillabaisse. Has anyone ever eaten la bouillabaisse before? No, yes, yeah. Oh, I love la bouillabaisse. So if you want to eat la bouillabaisse, you definitely have to like les fruits de mer. You have to like seafood and be a seafood eater. So who in here eats seafood? Moi, j'habite à l'océan, oui. I live on the ocean, so I do. It's my favorite food. So la bouillabaisse is what we're going to talk about today. Now, it is made famous in the south of France in a city, I'm going to circle it on my screen here, in a city called Marseille. Marseille is a beautiful city that is on the Mediterranean Sea. It is where it's very ancient. So we have history written all the way back to the Greek and Roman times that people have been living in this port city here. It is a very big port. If you know or have family in the Navy or things like that, they have probably docked and pulled into Marseille before because a lot of our military ships will pull in there because it's a very big port for ships. But one of the main ways that Marseille makes their money has always been fishing for hundreds and hundreds of years. So ironically enough, la bouillabaisse today is a very expensive dish. Very, very expensive. But the history of it, it was actually known as a poor man's dish a long time ago when it started. And the reason it was called that was because the fishermen would go out during the day. They would catch whatever they could, whatever they could find, whatever was in season, they would catch it. They would bring it back to port, and then they would try to sell whatever they had. Whatever was left over that they did not sell, they actually, cleaned and all of that and put in a big pot and let it simmer overnight and cooked it overnight. And then they had this big kind of seafood stew that they would eat. So they didn't have to pay for it and they didn't waste their efforts the day before. This is why it's called a poor man's dish. But today it's actually a very expensive dish wherever you get it because seafood is very expensive, right? And how expensive it is depends on the type of seafood that is in it. So in Marseille, I'm going to talk and pull up my video clip. In Marseille, they still do the same thing. It's actually really neat to see. You can see all of the fishermen during the day when they pull in at a certain time, and they will sell all of the fish that they caught, and you can have them pay a little bit extra to have them clean it for you. Or they also sell it to the local restaurants, and the local restaurants cook very, very fresh fish in Marseille. It is, I will say, I live on the ocean and I've eaten seafood my whole life, but eating seafood in Marseille, very top notch. Seafood from the Mediterranean Sea, very fresh, is very, very good if you like seafood. So we're going to watch a short video clip that is about Marseille. So you can see a little bit about the port city that I was talking about. You can see how it's on the water. And they're going to talk about La Bouillabaisse. And they're going to talk about one of the most famous and expensive restaurants for La Bouillabaisse in this area as well.
Marseille's famous Notre-Dame de la Garde rises above the city. This year, Marseille is one of Europe's capitals of culture. The old port has been freshly renovated to mark the occasion.
I messed it up. Hang on. Hang on just a second. I'm sorry about that. I was trying to adjust the screen, but it messed it up for you. Hang on.
Their catch and sell it. Some of the fish will end up in Marseille's traditional fish stew, bouillabaisse.
You need a variety of fish for bouillabaisse, and to make a good bouillabaisse, you need good quality fish.
The jury is out on which restaurant serves the best bouillabaisse, but Chez Fanfan, the most famous one, is one of the port city's tourist attractions. In the kitchen, fish, saffron, tomato paste, and other ingredients are put on to simmer, just the way they were 6 decades ago.
The restaurant is 60 years old, and from the start it's made bouillabaisse. People come from around the world to eat it.
Fanfan was a Marseille institution. Everyone knew him. He also introduced the dish to celebrity circles. His nephew took over the restaurant and carefully keeps up the culinary tradition.
Bouillabaisse is made with fresh fish. So fresh, it's a pleasure to touch it. Then it takes a long time, hours, until the bouillabaisse is ready.
The restaurant serves around 100 portions a day, and not just to tourists. The restaurant is typical of Marseille. Neighbors reminisce about old times.
I was his first customer. My wedding reception was here. We must have brought each other luck.
And this small bay will certainly be one of the culinary hotspots this year in this European capital of culture.
That's a good snapshot here. This is the main kind of residential port here of Marseille. You can see all the boats, right? Lots of boats around there. And that is the history of bouillabaisse. So now that you know what it is, who would eat it? Who would try it? Anybody? Nobody. Nobody in here likes seafood enough to try it? Oh, bouillabaisse is very good. All right. Well, just a fun fact about Marseille. Marseille is actually the next city over from the city that I lived in, which is Aix-en-Provence. So I spent a lot of time in Marseille. Something that you might not realize about France, even though it's a very small country, right, kind of like a state in the United States, it has different dialects of French all throughout it. And the dialect of French that is actually spoken and the accent in French that is spoken in the south here in Marseille is very strong and very different from regular French when you hear just standard French. So think about different places in the United States, right? Somebody who's born and bred in Boston, for example, has a very thick Bostonian accent, right? That might sound very different from somebody born and bred in Texas, which has a very thick Southern English accent. So these are just two examples in the United States of different accents, but people are speaking English, right? The same language. France has accents as well. And one of the thickest accents is in Marseille. You couldn't hear them because the translator spoke over top of them, but the people who spoke in the video had really, really strong Marseillan accents. And sometimes it can be so strong, it's even really, really hard to understand, even if you speak French very well. So there are different accents all over France, but Marseille is a very strong one. The people of Marseille also, if they're born and bred in Marseille, they typically have darker colored skin, like a more olive colored skin, because it's very close to Italy. So I don't know if you noticed in the video, but most of the people in the video had dark hair, dark complexion. Their skin was a little bit darker and more olive. That's very common for people who live in the south of France and who live on the border of Italy as well, for people who were born there. So even though it's a small country, to us, right? If you live in the United States, it's a pretty small country, but there's different ethnicities, different accents and things like that all over France. All right. Any questions about la bouillabaisse? Next time you see it, if you see it on the menu ever, you'll know what it is. It is in the menu here, on the menu here in some fancy restaurants. All right. So today we are going to focus on la viande. We're going to learn some basic words to talk about different types of meat. So the first word we're going to learn is the one up at the top, which is the word for meat. This is a really good word to know. Some of you might not eat meat, right? So if you're reading a menu, it's important to understand if something has meat in it, if it doesn't, and what type of meat is in it, because you might not eat certain types of meat. So let's practice the word for meat. Can everyone say la viande? La viande. Good. Now we know this one. We learned it way in September at the beginning of the year. It's where we get the word poultry, right? So the word for chicken in French is le poulet. Le poulet. The next one is not eaten that much in France, but it is in the US. It is the word for turkey. So turkey in French is la dinde. La dinde. The next one looks like the English word. It is an English word. It's just pronounced a little bit differently. Instead of a long vowel sound, it makes a short vowel sound. In French, we pronounce it le steak. Le steak, a short vowel sound. And the next two, we of course know these are English words here for hamburger and hot dog. But remember, we don't pronounce H's at the beginnings of words in French. So for hamburger, it sounds like this. Hamburger. Le hamburger. And for hot dog, we say hot dog. Hot dog. Right? We don't make that sound, that H sound at the beginning of the word. The next one is the main ingredient for la bouillabaisse, and that is fish. Let's take a look at the word for fish here. Notice how it has the double S sound here. Whenever we have two S's in French together, it makes an S sound. So fish sounds like this. Poisson. Poisson. Now you have to be very careful with this word, and any word really that has a double S in it. If we get a little lazy and we pronounce it with a Z sound, le poison, then we are ordering poison. So le poison with a Z sound is poison, but le poisson is fish with an S sound. So you have to be very careful. All right, the next one is an English word, again, that we use in French. We pronounce it le bacon. The next word is the word for sausage. Sausage is pronounced saucisson. Le saucisson. Saucisson. And the last one we're going to learn today, we learned when we talked about les crêpes, for crepes. We learned ham, which is le jambon. Le jambon. Now, I want you to think about what on here would be your favorite viande, your favorite meat. And if you don't eat meat, we're going to learn how to talk about that as well. So go ahead and take a look at your list. Pick your favorite viande. And we're going to take turns. We're going to answer what our viande préférée is. Now, if you do not eat meat, right, you are just going to tell us that. You'll say, je ne mange pas, right? I don't eat. Je ne mange pas de viande. I don't eat meat, oui? Alors, pour moi, for me, I would say, ma viande préférée est le poisson. Les fruits de mer. Oui, seafood, les fruits de mer. Alors, Emily, quelle est ta viande préférée?
La viande préférée est le steak.
Le steak, très bien. Et Arabi, quelle est ta viande préférée? Rabi, can you hear us okay? Oh, there you go. I cannot hear you. I heard the background, but I couldn't hear your voice. Mute it, try to unmute it, and then unmute it again. See if that works. There you go. Now unmute.
Here, did that work?
Yeah, I don't know what's magical about that, but sometimes it works.
I'm actually vegetarian.
Good. So you would tell us you don't eat meat, right? So you would use this one here. Je ne
mange pas de viande. I forgot.
Good. Viande. Good. Yeah, I don't eat meat. Good. And for vegetarian, it's very similar to the word in English. So we would say je suis végétarienne.
Okay, je suis vegetarian.
Très bien. So these are good words for you to know, right? If you're reading a menu, because you would want to know or be able to ask if something had meat in it. Very good. Et Aria, quelle viande préfères-tu?
Mon viande préférée est la. Can you say bacon for me one more time?
Bacon.
Bacon.
Oui, le bacon. Très bien. Alors, le steak, le bacon. Et Shara, quelle viande préfères-tu?
Ma viande ma viande préférée est le poulet.
Le poulet, très bien. Et Carolina, quelle est ta viande préférée?
Je ne mange pas de viande.
Très bien. Tu n'aimes pas de viande ou tu es végétarienne?
Vegetarian.
Très bien, bravo. So these would be important words for you to know too, right? Looking at a menu and being able to understand what had meat in it and what didn't. Très bien. Et Winter, quelle viande préfères-tu?
Ma viande préférée est la poulet.
Et le poulet, très bien, bravo, good. All right, very good. Now, something that we haven't talked about yet is ordering things a la carte. This is actually something that we use in English in restaurants. If you are ordering something a la carte, that means you are ordering something on the side. So a side dish. Have you ever been to a restaurant and like you order your main part of your meal, like your steak or your hamburger or something like that, but you don't get a side with it. You actually have to pay for a side. So if you wanted fries or a baked potato or something, you had to pay what's called a la carte. It means on the side. Have any of you ever been somewhere like that where you have to order things a la carte? It's very European. So it's in many restaurants, many nice sit-down restaurants in Europe, but we have it here as well. And we call it the same thing. It's a French term, a la carte. So we're actually going to learn two sides today. We are going to learn rice and pasta. So for rice in French, it is pronounced le riz. Le riz. And pasta in French is les pâtes. Les pâtes. So we're going to do a survey today to see which one you prefer. So, tu préfères le riz ou tu préfères les pâtes? Moi, je préfère les pâtes. Alors, c'est un pour les pâtes. Et Shara, que préfères-tu, le riz ou les pâtes?
Moi, je préférais le riz.
Le riz, très bien. Bravo. Et Arabi, que préfères-tu, le riz ou les pâtes?
Je préfère la pâte.
Les pâtes, très bien. Et Carolina, que préfères-tu?
Je préfère le riz.
Le riz. Et Aria, que préfères-tu?
J'ai préféré la pâte.
Les pâtes. Et Winter, que préfères-tu?
Je préfère le riz.
Le riz. Oh, Emily, tu dois choisir. Emily, Le
Mon
riz
préféré,
ou les pâtes?
mon préféré, le riz.
Le riz a gagné. Très bien, bravo. Alors, 4 pour le riz et 3 pour les pâtes. Let's take a look at the words here, though. There's something grammatically different about how we say rice and pasta compared to French and English. So in English, we do it the same way in French for rice, right? We just say rice. We don't make it plural, even though we're talking about more than one grain of rice. So it's just singular. It's what's called an uncountable noun in language. Pasta, though, is different from French and English. In English, we do not have an S on pasta, right? We don't say, I'm going to have some pastas today, right? Meaning you're going to have a certain type of noodle or pasta. In French, we actually do make it plural. So take a look here. Les pâtes is how we say pasta. We actually add an S on it and we make it plural. But when we translate it, we don't add the S on it and we don't make it plural. Okay, so now you know a few sides there. And of course, we know our vegetables, which can be sides as well. All right, let's take a look at a few more words that we're going to use to talk about ordering and ordering in a restaurant. So before we left for break, we talked about this verb here. And we saw it in the transportation unit, right? We learned that prendre means to take. But what else did we learn that prendre can mean? It can mean to take, and what else can it mean? We use it when we talk about these things here. Le petit déjeuner, le déjeuner et le dîner. Winter?
Doesn't it also mean to eat a meal? Because I wanted to say to eat breakfast, I would say to have breakfast.
Yeah, very good. Excellent job. We don't use manger when we talk about eating certain meals. Instead, we use prendre to take or to have, right? So remember, le petit déjeuner is how we say breakfast. Le déjeuner is lunch, and le dîner is dinner. All right, this is a new verb we're going to work with pretty soon here, and we're going to learn a lot of words to go with this. Boire is how we say to drink. So we're going to learn some drinks coming up here, and we'll talk about things that we like to drink and things that we don't like to drink. So boire is the verb to drink. Payer is another verb that means exactly what it looks like, right? So payer is how we say to pay. So one of the things we learned how to say before break was may I do something, right? Which is puis-je. That was this expression here, puis-je, may I. So if you are ready to pay, you could say, excusez-moi, puis-je payer, s'il vous plaît? May I pay, please? It's a polite way to ask for the check. Or it may be, they bring you the bill and they ask you, are you ready to pay? Tu es prêt à payer. So payer is to pay for something. All right, the next ones on the right side here, these are all also verbs that we're going to be working with. Now, demander looks like the English verb demand, right? And it's actually where we get it from. We get it from this French verb, but it means something a little bit different. When we say demand in English, if somebody is demanding you do something, they're sort of ordering you to do something, right? It's not a question whether they want you to do it or not. However, demander in French actually means to ask for something. So for example, one of the things we're going to learn coming up is place settings. We're going to learn how to say, plate, napkin, fork, spoon, knife, all of those things. Maybe you need another fork. You could say, may I ask for a fork, please? You could say, puis-je demander pour une fourchette, s'il vous plaît? Puis-je demander? Or they might, be ready to ask you something or vice versa. We would use the verb demander. Now, the next verb is kind of similar, commander. It looks like command, right? If you command somebody to do something, you're telling them they have to do it. It comes from this French verb, but it means something a little bit different in French. Commander is how we say to order. So the waiter or waitress could come over and they could ask, tu es prêt à commander? Are you ready to order? Right? Commander. Now, the noun for your order is une commande. So for example, I buy a lot of books from a French website in France. And so when I order something, it's called une commande. Or when I get an email that my order is ready to be shipped, it'll say votre commande est prête à envoyer. Oui, it's ready to send. So une commande is an order. All right, the next one we've learned before. Who remembers, what does donner mean? We learned it when we learned ER verbs. And we talked about what English word we get from this word. Ooh, good thing we're reviewing. All right, I'll tell you the English word we get from it. Emily, do you remember?
I was looking back at my notes. Does it mean to give?
It does. And what English word do we get from it?
I don't remember. I'm sorry.
That's okay. What English word do we get from donner, which means to give? If you've outgrown some clothes, you can do what with it?
Oh, donate?
Donate. Yeah, you can donate it, right? So donate means you're giving something to someone. It comes from this French verb donner, which means to give. All right. So for example, the waiter could say, oh, I'm going to give you your check. Remember the word for check is l'addition. He could say, je vais vous donner l'addition. I'm going to give you the check. We know what manger means. I hope you guys know this one by now, right? Manger, we know, is to eat. You can manger food, right? You can use the verb manger for food, but you can also use prendre. So prendre means to take, but we can also translate it as to eat. We have to use it when we're talking about eating meals, but we can also use it when we're talking about eating food. So you can either use prendre or you can use manger. Now, just as a review, if you don't remember, even though we wrote it down, but just in case, I know it's been a while. The way that we conjugate prendre, because it's irregular, is je prends with an S, which is actually kind of like a regular ER verb, right? So you could say je prends une pomme pour le petit déjeuner, right? I'm eating an apple for breakfast. Or you could say, je prends le petit déjeuner. I'm eating breakfast. It doesn't literally mean to eat, but it does when we translate it. So we're going to stop there today. One of the verbs we've been working on is the verb avoir. And last week at the beginning of the week, I sent you some games with avoir. So if you didn't get a chance to do any of those games, that link is on there for you. And we're going to continue with our food unit next class, okay? So I will see you all mercredi, oui? Bonne nuit tout le monde. À mercredi.